Hello, welcome back. In the last couple of lessons, we looked at adding stream fields, a bunch of different types of stream fields, and we even looked at how they are stored in the database. Now, stream fields are great because you can move content around, and theoretically, and actually realistically, you can add multiple stream fields wherever you want. So if we open up home models.py and we wanted to add another type of stream field somewhere on the page for, let's say, related blog posts or just a particular section in our template. So let's open up our template. Let's go homepage.html. So we could have a set of stream fields in here, and we could have a set of stream fields in here, and we could have a set of stream fields inside of the banner. We could do all of that, but that's actually not really how we're supposed to be using stream fields. There's a better way. It's a slightly more complicated way, but there is a better way. Now, I'm using the word complicated pretty lightly because it's actually not very complicated at all. And that's one of the beautiful things behind Wagtail CMS is that things are not complicated. Things are really, really easy for us. So for example, you know when you're reading a blog and at the bottom or on the side, it's like related blog posts. Or you're on a website and it has a bunch of images and there's a carousel and the images swipe left all the time or right all the time or something like that. That is not a good use for a stream field. Instead, we would use something called an orderable. And in this lesson, we're going to learn all about orderables. Well, we're going to learn mostly about orderables, and you're going to get a good understanding of how they work, and then you'll be able to extend it as much as you like, as much as you really need. So we're actually not going to create the blog post example because we don't have a blog yet, but let's create an orderable where someone can upload a minimum of 1 image, but also a maximum of, let's say, 5 images for an image carousel. And we're going to put that on our flex page. No, we're not going to put that on our flex page. In fact, we're actually going to put that on our home page. Now, the reason that we're not going to put it on the flex page is because the flex page is supposed to be flexible. The home page, however, has a little bit of flexible content, so it's got an optional stream field in here, and there might be a couple more down the road. But if we wanted to have some sort of image gallery as the banner, for instance, we could do that. Now, we're not going to replace our banner entirely, just because that's going to be a lot of work for just one video. But by the end of this video, you will have a very good idea of how to actually implement that. So an orderable, if you come from a Django background, which you probably do, is basically just, it's an inline model. That's all it is. But Wagtail makes this really, really nice for us. So on our homepage, we're going to add a new class. The class name is just whatever it's going to be called in the database as the table name. So let's call this one homepage carousel images or something like that. It's going to inherit from an orderable, which does not exist. So let's go and make that exist. So I know that that comes from Wagtail core models. So let's import orderable. And now give it a little doc string. Between 1 and 5 images for the homepage carousel. Now, this does not look like a regular Wagtail page, but if you're familiar with Django models, it's not super unfamiliar either. So the one thing we need to do here is we need to explicitly say which page is this connected to. So let's add a page in here. Page is going to be parental key. And it's going to be home page. And I'll explain this in just a moment. Related name is equal to carousel images. We need to import that. And we get this one from a package called model cluster, which comes with Wagtail, so you don't need to install anything additional. So let's do from model cluster.fields import parental key. Now what this parental key is basically saying is, what is this inline model relating to? Which model is this going to be an inline for? And we're saying the home app and the class homepage, which is down here. And the related name is how we're actually going to create the inline panel, because everything has to be in panels in Wagtail. And then we're also going to use that exact same related name in the template to create our carousel. So now we need to add fields because the page is not necessarily a field. It's just saying, well, the parent page, the page that we want to be inlining to is going to be the home page. That's all that one does. So once that's written, basically you can ignore that for now. And then we want to add an image. Now we know how to add an image, and in fact, we can just copy and paste banner image altogether because that's not that different. And we're just going to call it, let's not call this image. That's going to be a crazy, not naming conflict, but that's going to get confusing. So let's call this carousel image. That's it. Now it's a little close to carousel images. This is going to be our loop down the road, and this is going to be the item that we're trying to get. Can this be null? Sure. Can it be blank? No. On delete, set null, related name. Cool. Everything there looks fine. Now, because, again, this is a Wagtail inline panel, this is an orderable, we also need to add panels. So we do panels is equal to, and then we just give it a panel. So this one could be a field panel if it was a regular text field, but this one's going to be an image chooser panel because it's an image choosing field. So carousel image, and I just got that from up here on line 17. Clean up that a little bit. Okay, so I've just opened up my terminal just to make sure there's no errors or anything. And it says, got an unexpected keyword argument related named. And if you're screaming at the screen saying, Caleb, you spelt it wrong, good catch. It happens from time to time, and that's why we have a terminal basically saying, oh, hey, there you go. This one is saying related named. Okay, so I just restarted Django, and this should be working as expected now. Not going to, but you would think it would. So let's edit our home page. And so everything looks normal still. But if we were to stop and run migrations, for instance, Python 3 manage.py, make migrations. It said created model, homepage carousel images. Okay, interesting. Python 3 manage.py, migrate. And then lastly, Python 3 manage.py, run server. Refresh our page in our admin, and still again, nothing's going to happen. Now, if you're scratching your head thinking, well, why is nothing different in here? Well, that's actually pretty simple, and we've run into this a number of times now, and it's simply because we don't have another content panel in here. So let's add one more content panel, and this one is going to be simply the related name, the inline name that we want to use, and this is called carousel images. So I throw that in there. It's not a StreamField panel. It is a inline panel. All of a sudden, VS Code is like, I don't know what that is. So we're going to need to go and import that. So I know that we can import it from Wagtail, admin, edit handlers. And let's go in here and put inline, not page, inline panel. And let's see, are you still complaining? Nope. Okay, so let's just open up our terminal. Okay, everything is okay. Now we can get there. It's taken us a little while, but we've gotten there. And now we have this little add button in here, and it just says add. And we can add as many as we want. We haven't told it to limit, but we can see that there's a carousel image field in here, which we've added with an image chooser. And the nice thing about orderables is they are orderable. We can move these up and down. It's not a problem. We can delete them. We can set a minimum number, a maximum number. But the first thing we need to do is actually we need to put this into something that's a little more manageable, because if someone was to see this right now on their page, they would go, there's a title here, banner title, banner subtitle, but there's nothing here. What's the deal with that? So to get around this, we use this thing called a multi-field panel. And all that does is basically says there's a bunch of panels and they're all related to each other. And this is very specifically just for display. So we're going to add a multi-field panel, and it's going to take a list of panels. And it also has a parameter in here called heading. So let's put carousel images in here as the heading, and let's move this down one line. It's going to complain that multi-field panel does not exist, so let's go and add that. Multi-field panel. Any complaints? No complaints. Refresh our page, and we will see that there is now a header. Carousel images. That's really nice. And in fact, what we can do is we can actually move all of our banner stuff together now, because every banner section here has its own little title. sometimes that's not really what you want. Sometimes you want to be a little more organized than that. Actually, for me, all times I want to be more organized than that. So I'm going to actually do that right now. It's super, super quick. So again, all you have to do is write multi-field panel. It takes a list and it has a heading called banner options. That's what we're going to call it. So we're going to move the banner title, subtitle, banner image, banner CTA. And I'm just going to cut those out, put them in there. And so I've got a multi-field panel with all of my banner stuff in there. We've got a StreamField panel with our content for our StreamFields, and we have a multi-field panel for our carousel images. Now, for me, this does not make sense to have these carousel images below the StreamFields, so I'm going to actually put them below the banner, but above the StreamFields. And make sure we've got our commas in place. Refresh our page, and we're going to see that there's a little bit of a difference in here now. So we have banner options, and now we have banner title, banner subtitle, image, and banner CTA all under one section. That's the beauty of a multi-field panel. Carousel images, it has its own title now. Now we actually have some sort of context of what this is about. But add doesn't make sense. We also want to limit this, and we want to set a minimum number of images that there has to be at all given times. So in our inline panel, we can say max num is equal to 5, min num is equal to 1, and the label for that button is going to be, well, what are we adding? We're going to add an image. And so that label says add image right here. When I refresh the page, always has a minimum of 1 in here. You can still delete it, but if you were to try to save the page, it would say you're missing 1. And let's see how many we can have. So we've got 2, 3, 4, 5, and then that button automatically disables itself. So you can't add more than 5. It's really, really, really nice. And now if we wanted to add all these different images, all we have to do is select different images. So for instance, I'm going to choose this image, and I'm going to choose another image, and I'm going to choose another image. These are actually probably going to be terrible, terrible images. So I want 3 in there right now. And I'm going to publish this page. Now this is the home page, and when I view live, we're not going to see anything again, and that's because we have to go into the template and explicitly say, we want to show these. Now, if you come from a WordPress background, you're going to be like, well, why don't they just automatically show up? But if you come from a Django background or a slightly more senior developer background, you're thinking, oh, this is actually really good because now the client doesn't have too much control. And for any particular feature that they want to implement, they actually have to think about it. They can't just say, oh, I want this, 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 and this. And then all of a sudden their site is really, really slow and bogged down and ugly. They actually have to think about it, which is really, really good for the internet entirely. So now we have a banner here and we have StreamFields here. And let's say I wanted to put a carousel right in between. How do I go about doing that? Well, the first thing I need to do is I need to go to getbootstrap.com and head over to documentation, and I want a carousel. And because they have sample code, so first slide, that's not more than 1. Second slide, this is something that we want. This is exactly what we want. Oh, we could even extend it with this. So maybe we just start with the simple one because we have just the image. And then as a fun experiment, what you can do is you can then extend that to have a title and some text and use a different carousel if you wanted to. Now I'm just going to copy this to my clipboard because I'm being lazy. And I'm going to open up homepage.html. So I have my banner stuff in here. I have my StreamFields in here. And right in the middle, I'm going to give myself a lot of room to work. Simply paste that in there. Now, when I refresh our page, we can see that there is something in there. Basically, it's just missing images in a carousel. So we know that the carousel works. So that's the front end essentially taken care of. Or at least the Bootstrap part of it is taken care of. We see that we have images in here. So we are going to want to loop through our images and replace these. And well, honestly, that's about it. So let's do that now. Let's do a little for loop. This indenting is going to drive me nuts. I'll fix that up after this video behind the scenes. To loop through these is actually quite simple. So we do for, let's do, we'll call this cycle for now. So for like a loop cycle in, and what we're referencing here is carousel images. Now, it's not like adding context. We actually still need self, because self is now, basically we said that this has a model inside of a model, so we're going to use self.carouselImages. Okay, so we've got a for loop in here, we've got an end for loop in here, and let's just cut that out, throw that in there, and get rid of these. So now let's refresh, and again, we're still not going to see our images, but we see this deferring related manager. Object is not iterable. What that is saying is, oh, actually, I can't iterate through a class. I need to iterate through all the items in a class. You're going to run into this time and time again. It's very, very common to miss out on this one. But in the template, all you do is .all. So now we need to add our image in here. So let's create an image rendition. So let's use the Wagtail image tag. We're going to use the loop cycle dot, because we're now inside of our carousel, our inline model, which is basically like looping through a StreamField. We need to access the carousel image. We're going to feed it the image that's been given. We're going to fill it with 900 by 400 or something like that. These images are going to be terrible, by the way. I'm going to put image.alt. Oh, by the way, there's an image tag that will actually create the image for you, and you can add it, add classes and everything. I like to be explicit like this because sometimes I like to add a lot of stuff to images, a lot of extra classes, or sometimes IDs, or, you know, front-endy stuff anyways. Image.url, and let's go and refresh our page and see what happens. Hello, we have a carousel. But for whatever reason, we can't click. Now, we know that this was working before, so why is it not working now? Well, we can deduct this. We can say, well, it was working before. We added our loop in there and it's not working. So it's got to be something inside of our loop. What could it possibly be? And we have to deduct a little bit here. And we have to think, well, it was working before. We did see something move, but we added our stuff and it's not working now. Two things we can do is we can always inspect, and we can see that we've got an item here and we've got 2 other items in there. So it can't be that. Things are working. The loop is definitely there. So to deduct or reduce our problem is we have to look at this inside of our loop. So we know our loop is working. We know that there's an image in there. If we get rid of active, what happens? Now I already know the solution to this. This is not going to fix anything for us. But in Bootstrap, your first one should always be active, your first item. So all we're going to do is check the for loop counter. So if for loop, if for loop dot counter is equal to 0, I'll move that over so you can see it. And by 0, I meant 1, and if. And I like to be a little finicky about my spacing. So refresh, and guess what? This is going to work. So we have our first lady here. We have a co-working space, and we have our second lady there. And in fact, this is the order that we're looking for. So we've got the first lady, and then we've got the co-working space, and then we've got the second lady. And if we ever wanted to rearrange these, so let's say we wanted that co-working space first, and then maybe pictures of people who work in that co-working space, we just save the page and refresh, and this shows our co-working space, and we now have a carousel. Just like that. So that's all there is to orderables. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, why would I use an orderable instead of a StreamField? Well, you can use a StreamField, but an Orderable is a better way to go in this particular instance because StreamFields can be unlimited. We learned about StreamField list blocks, but a list block doesn't have a particular limit. Maybe it does in the future. Maybe in a future version of Wagtail, you'll be able to say, oh, I only want a list block to show up 5 times. But even then, you're still limited because that list block has to show up inside of your StreamField for loop. Now you could add another StreamField in your page class. So instead of content, it could be like, here's content 1 and also here's content 2. You could do something like that, but now you're just adding columns to a database that don't necessarily need to be there, just to add one particular thing. You could do this in a much more concentrated manner. And we achieve this with our Orderable. Now, the nice thing about Orderables is you can place them anywhere you want. So for instance, our Orderable belongs inside of a carousel, and that only belongs on the home page. It doesn't belong to any other particular page. It is a one-time instance on this page, but it is repeated content. So people can select different images, yes, but our markup never changes. It's going to be the exact same every single time. So it is very similar to a StreamField. However, it is more of a concentrated or a specific use case. So for instance, at the bottom of a blog post, if you wanted to select related blog posts or featured blog posts or something like that, you could do that. You could add an Orderable and you could just simply select the page. So instead of image, instead of wagtail images.image, you would do wagtail core.page, and then you would just loop through related post, and then you just loop through that. Or you'd also have to change your related name, obviously. But that's really all there is to it. So in this video, we have learned what the difference between StreamFields and Orderables are, why you should use an Orderable over a StreamField in particular instances, and we actually made an Orderable work inside of a carousel. And we even debugged a little Bootstrap thing, a little Bootstrap problem, where active was actually holding us back. Now don't forget, I am Caleb Tallien. I am the author of this video. I'm an author on learnwagtail.com, where you can learn lots of cool things about Wagtail. All the videos for this Wagtail course are also available on learnwagtail.com, along with tons of other tutorials. If you like this video, feel free to subscribe, thumbs up, comment. And if you ever have further questions, there is a Slack community in case you wanted to join it, but there's also docs.wagtail.io. There's Stack Overflow questions, there's learnwagtail.com. There's a lot of resources out there to help you. So hopefully this video was helpful in helping you understand the difference between StreamFields and Orderables and why you should use an Orderable.